From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Welcome to this special edition of Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Catherine Nowicki. Tonight, we're taking a closer look at some of our top sustainability stories, including how businesses are preparing for power outages during monsoon storms, and how Sky Harbor Airport is going green.
The Obama administration put a 20-year hold on uranium mining around the Grand Canyon in 2012 so officials could study its environmental impacts. That moratorium is still in place under the Trump administration for now.
But lawmakers are worried that the White House may try to undo the ban, so they're working to make it permanent. Julian Paras has the story from our Washington bureau.
The debate over uranium mining near the Grand Canyon is more than academic for Havasupai Councilwoman Carletta Talusi. To her, it's about the survival of her tribe.
We are in the near extinction. If the uranium mines are allowed to come on to federal lands, such as the Kaibab Forest Service and public lands, they will contaminate our water.
Talusi was one of a number of tribal and environmental leaders who spoke yesterday in support of Representative Raul Grijalva's bill to make the uranium mining ban around the Grand Canyon permanent. Grijalva called it a common sense measure.
It's a simple piece of legislation. It takes what Obama did with the moratorium and makes that ban on mining permanent. Simple as that. It does not create a new monument. It doesn't include any new public land designations. It merely protects what exists now.
The bill would ban on just over 1 million acres on both sides of the Grand Canyon. Supporters say it specifically targets uranium because of its history of environmental damage in the region.
We do not want to continue the toxic legacy our citizens have made and lived with for 70 years.
But at a hearing today, critics say the bill wrongly paints uranium mining as dangerous.
The mining is actually clean and it actually facilitates better penetration of water to subsurface aquifers. Once it's been reclaimed, you can't even tell that anything has happened in this.
Mojave County Supervisor Buster Johnson said environmental safeguards currently in place make it impossible for mining to threaten water of the Havasupai and others.
They have state and federal requirements. They're so closely watched, not saying that something couldn't happen, but nowadays with all the requirements that are on them and all the environmentalists and just regular concerned people that are out there, it's really hard to, and stupid on the mining company's part to actually do any polluting.
Critics also noted economic impact of a mining ban. Uranium alone is valued in the billions, and leaving it in the ground would mean the loss of jobs and taxes, they say. But Talusi said the cost of continuing to mine around the canyon is potentially much greater.
We have a responsibility, not just Native Americans, but as human beings. We have a right to speak up and say enough atrocity to our waters, enough atrocity to our lands.
In Washington, Julian Paras, Cronkite News.
Today's hearing comes just one day after the Commerce Department recommended that the U.S. take steps to safeguard access to critical minerals, including uranium.
No action was taken today on Grijalva's bill, which has more than 100 co-sponsors in the House, including all 5 Arizona Democrats.
As Amanda mentioned, the hot weather means vegetation dries quickly, posing a wildfire risk across the state. Cronkite News reporter Alexis Hermanson explains how one community gets ready for wildfire season.
The rain this winter in the valley and the snow in the high country was much needed, but meteorologist Matt Pace says all that moisture poses a problem for the summer.
The more rain you have in the winter just allows for all those grasses, those fine fuels to grow faster. Then they dry out, and then you get those fires move very quickly through a lot of the dry fuels.
Once it dries up, just be careful with anything you're doing out in the desert.
That's because the fire threat is high. Fire Marshal Mark Zimmerman says more communities are working to protect themselves through the National Fire Protection Association's FireWise program, including Scottsdale. Part of Scottsdale's preserve area is natural open space land. The city used to not allow anyone to do any fuel management on this land.
With this program, we are allowing people to go into that land, not strip it clean of growth, but do fuel management in that area.
There are more than 100 communities in Arizona that take part in the FireWise program. 11 are in Maricopa County. Residents who live in a FireWise community must clean debris off their roofs, keep trees pruned back and off their homes, and clear a path around their yards.
The concept of the 30 feet is fires coming down the hill toward your house or across that desert toward your house. When it hits the defensible space area, it should slow down.
Oncala West in Scottsdale is one of the communities in the program. Bonnie Corneal is their FireWise chairwoman. She says at times some community members don't like to abide by the rules to become FireWise.
People need to understand why it's important to protect all of us. Because if a fire starts, it spreads very quickly. And as close a proximity as these homes are, we all have to be engaged.
The first time in, it's a lot of work for most places. After that, it's just maintenance, no different than mowing your lawn.
President of Oncala West, Stanley Bronstein, says people wonder why other community members care about what they do with their private land.
Even if my house is not in jeopardy, I don't want to see your house burned down. I actually care about you.
There are some ways to prevent wildfires without being in a FireWise community. Make sure campfires are completely out before leaving. Don't throw lit cigarettes out. Keep grills away from your home as flames can become trapped under the patio. Don't pull over into higher grasses as your car is hot underneath and can easily start a fire. In Scottsdale, Alexis Hermanson, Cronkite News.
Scottsdale residents can call their local fire department to have someone come to their home and give them fire safety tips.
If power goes out in your home, it can be disappointing. But if power goes out at a business, it can have major consequences.
Cronkite News reporter Amanda Slee explains how the Salt River Project is helping businesses be prepared.
For the past 5 years, SRP has hosted a training for businesses on how to be prepared for power outages, especially during the Arizona monsoon season.
And if the power goes out, we will lose all of our finished product as well as our raw materials. That means we can't service our customers, and until the power is back up, that also means that we can't continue to offer our employees employment.
Vanessa Van Wyk says the company, which distributes Mexican cuisine, has put off preparing for power outages for a while now, but not this year.
Being prepared requires review, going back over what seems basic a year later may not be fresh in your mind. So it's very important to continue to educate yourself.
The official start to monsoon season is June 15th. Courtney Jones with SRP says the goal is for businesses to make a plan.
Being prepared allows you to react, to basically have a plan of action so that you can help not only yourselves, but those around you in the event of an outage.
Learning on the fly is not a plan. You really have to be ready. You really have to go through and literally unplug a piece of equipment. How does it impact you? Be ready for it.
Van Wyk told me today's training has made her realize it's time to make sure her company is ready for when the rain comes.
We'll be sitting down and having a meeting, and I think the first thing that we need to do is combine our lists of what we need to do and then start working with our maintenance and SRP to quickly and easily facilitate the steps that we need to take.
SRP recommends you sign up for outage alerts online or through their app. You can also download the ready.maricopa.gov app to prepare, plan, and respond to disasters that affect your immediate vicinity. In the newsroom, Amanda Slee, Cronkite News.
Crossing paths with a venomous snake is probably not on your list of things to do this summer.
But if you do, the Phoenix Herpetological Society offers training classes on how to handle the animals. In the desert, hearing the sound of a rattle usually means move away. But at the Phoenix Herpetological Society, people learn to coexist with the animals.
We spend about an hour and a half in the classroom just talking about snakes, kind of addressing some of the common misunderstanding and myths that go along with snakes.
Joe Himes is the venomous curator. He teaches classes on how to handle animals like rattlesnakes. Inside the classroom, participants start off with non-venomous snakes before moving on to the real deal.
But the main reason why we start off with a non-venomous snake before moving on to the rattlesnake is just to make sure that everybody really understands what they're doing. So it's the part of the tail that people refer to as the coon tail. This is black and white like a raccoon's tail. Look for some of the classic mistakes of not holding the lid right, not holding the tongs right, things that might lead to the snake being injured. That way when it's a venomous snake and there's something on the line, if somebody gets bitten, hopefully their confidence is already there and they know what they're doing, and everybody can be safe about it.
For beginners, the class offers peace of mind.
I wanted to take the class because I had actually encountered a snake on my property before, and I love to hike, so encountering snakes does happen in my life.
And for those who are more comfortable handling snakes, the class still has benefits.
Mainly today was just to kind of like get the ball rolling on like trying to work with venomous snakes, because snakes are my thing and I'd really like to kind of go into that, basically just get more experience. This was really exciting to go through today.
Samantha Dodd volunteers at PHS, but hopes to be the person you call when there's a snake that needs to be scooped up.
So I was really kind of just trying to work towards moving towards that, because you have to go through this class first before you're able to actually go out and do rattlesnake removals and stuff.
Eve Hall just wants to be more comfortable when she's out enjoying the desert.
I feel much more confident. I feel like I could do it now, I think even if a snake was a little more aggressive than the one I handled, I kind of feel confident in the distance that I need to be and the possible ways that the snake might move. So that makes me feel more confident as well, and just knowing that I can always take a step back.
The Society offers classes through November and invites anyone who's curious to participate.
Feathers, fur, and even bones are considered sacred to Native American ceremonies.
The Arizona Department of Game and Fish recently started a program to help get everything from bear pelts to antlers to Native Americans across the state. Cronkite News reporter Gabrielle Oliveira shows us how this program works.
There are 4 freezers at the Arizona Department of Game and Fish repository across the state. Each keeps wildlife items from fur to shells.
I got an order the other day for 5 mountain lion. It's like, mountain lion are hard to come by. They're about 5. That's like an Amazon order, right?
Those items can be ordered from repositories such as the new one at Arizona Department of Game and Fish or the non-eagle repository at Liberty Wildlife.
The repository is significant because it provides them a source of feathers that they can utilize to construct their religious and ceremonial regalia and religious implements.
The tribes say Arizona Wildlife helps bind their people to the world around them. Doreen Duncan, who lives on the Salt River Indian community, believes that repositories play a significant role in their culture.
The repository is very important to probably all the Native tribes across the United States because feathers, they're important to us because we use them in our ceremonies, most importantly, and also we use them as part of our dance regalia.
Tribes request specific items like antlers.
So then I have an inventory of what we have available statewide and wherever it is.
If the item isn't on hand, the request goes on a wait list until it can be fulfilled, hopefully before it's needed for a ceremony. Items that are requested range from full bears to tortoise shells.
But there have been occasions, I think, where, for example, as a part of a law enforcement case, that somebody is prosecuting illegal harvest of bear out of season or without a permit or something. Well, as a part of prosecuting that case, you have to collect the evidence, preserve the evidence, which in this case would be a dead bear. And there have been occasions in the past where if after a case has been adjudicated and there's no more any need to hold the evidence.
Arizona Game and Fish is currently a non-feather repository, but there are other repositories that specialize in feathers, including Liberty Wildlife, that mails items all over the country.
We send out feathers, they send out furs and bones and skull, and so that's good. It's a very good thing.
Arizona Game and Fish hopes to continue developing the program as a model for other wildlife agencies. In Phoenix, Gabrielle Oliveira, Cronkite News.
Would you believe that not all forms of shade are equal?
Turns out that different types of shade, from trees to building awnings, provide different levels of relief.
Cronkite News reporter Amanda Slee is with us now. Amanda, what type of research is going on?
Researchers with Arizona State University are trying to figure out the best types of shade for people in a city that's getting increasingly hotter. It's called 50 Grades of Shade.
What we're doing is we place one MARDI in the sun, that's our reference measurement or reference MARDI, and then the other MARDI is sampling all kinds of shaded location.
And MARDI is their handy tool that gathers the data.
A MARDI is a biometeorological weather station. It's mobile, it's on a garden cart, and MARDI can measure how you experience temperature.
The research is early, but
we've noticed that there's some trees providing more shade or better shade than others. For example, the ficus. The ficus trees are really good at providing shade, but they are very expensive with respect to water.
This analysis in Tempe on shade matters. A new scientific study that came out last week shows Phoenix in 30 years will have a climate like Baghdad.
Phoenix is the perfect test bed or living laboratory to do these types of research studies to inform other places around the world that might become as harsh as Phoenix in the future.
And for residents in Phoenix, shade is top of mind as summer heat continues.
Depending on the space we are, if there's no shade, it's whatever shade there is, but we always look for trees. Trees and like canopies in the park and stuff like that.
Mark Hartman, the Chief Sustainability Officer for Phoenix, also finds trees a priority.
You don't actually have to put a canopy over the whole city. It's just actually where the people walk. Like, what is the walk shed? Where are the routes people are taking? And just shade those on their trips to bus stops and schools and stores.
The city is working with ASU to detect the routes that people walk most for these shaded areas.
Our goal is to double the tree canopy by 2030. We're on a 13% and want to get to 25% tree canopy.
As for ASU researchers,
we're trying to inform public policy and hoping that the city of Tempe can use these numbers that we're generating here with our measurements to create policy to make it more comfortable.
The Arizona monsoon begins in June every year and lasts through September. But since we haven't seen any serious storm strike, some are calling it the non-soon.
Non-soon might actually be a better fit. Like many of you, we wanted to know, where is the rain? So Cronkite News reporter Tanaya Williamson decided to find out.
She joins us live with more on whether we can expect to see the weather change anytime soon.
Now, I've enjoyed riding around and not have to worry about the rain that comes from the monsoon. But, you know, today I went and I spoke with the National Weather Service to find out what the rain might look like for us going forward. Arizona is known for having a dry heat. It's also known for its monsoons that around this time of year would usually be in abundance. But we haven't seen too many this year so far. Why is that?
Well, to make a long story short, it's been too dry.
James Sawtell is a meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Phoenix.
Apparently, the subtropical jet stream has taken a really long time to migrate to the north. So the result is we've had a lot of recurring dry westerly to southwesterly flow.
No monsoons at this point means a shortage of the rain we'd usually see this time of year.
30% of our annual rainfall falls during the monsoon season.
Monsoon season starts in June and ends in September. Those who deal in monsoon preparedness say it will come and it's wise to be ready.
We encourage those who live in the valley to prepare for monsoon during this time. It is going to be here soon, so as we wait for it, we are encouraging folks to prepare a go kit with really everything that you think you would need, like a flashlight, water, batteries, to really make sure that you have what you need throughout a potential outage during the storm.
It is good to be safe and prepared. According to the National Weather Service, we could see a high of 115 degrees today. And if we do, that'll be the hottest day of the year so far. Reporting live in Phoenix, Tanaya Williamson, Cronkite News.
The airport scenery has changed from all green to a more desert tan.
Cronkite News reporter Amanda Slee found out why the change of scenery took place.
This is all part of a much larger plan to reduce water usage for a more sustainable airport, while also saving money. Driving through the airport, you may notice the landscaping has changed to a more natural desert look.
You see it in people's houses, you see it in other natural landscaping because it fits here. I think the Water Services Director said it best when she said we honor our our environment when we plant the things here that belong here.
Sky Harbor Airport completed this zero-scaping plan last month. This is one of their efforts to help reduce the airport's water usage by 10% by 2020.
Fits in perfectly not only with our overall goals, but with the city's goals and the community's goals. I think it's going to be looked at as, as a prime project to model after.
They replaced 10.9 acres of turf to put in low water use trees, saguaros, cacti, and other plants and shrubs, filling in the empty areas with rocking. The locations where they made these changes were all in areas which weren't accessible to pedestrians.
With water, you really want to be strategic about where you use your water. Like, there's not many people who walk to the airport and walk along beside the freeway. So having, grass there might not be a good spot for grass.
It's a great thing to look at when you're driving by, but you couldn't do anything with it but maintain it. And it costs money to maintain, and it costs time to maintain, and human resource, and a lot of time and energy went into maintaining a beautiful looking turf that frankly just didn't belong here.
This project is anticipated to save $400,000 annually, in addition to reducing water usage by over 5 million gallons a year. Chief Sustainability Officer for Phoenix says accomplishments made by the city have been remarkable.
We definitely are looking at our water use and have been the last number of years to say, let's look at it. And Phoenix, our per capita water use has dropped 30% in the last couple decades.
Other than water conservation, the airport's sustainability management plan focuses on 7 key areas, some including waste and recycling, energy, and greenhouse gas emissions. At the digital desk, Amanda Slee, Cronkite News.
The National Weather Service has put Phoenix under an excessive heat warning, meaning you should stay cool and stay inside. But what if you can't do those things because you work outdoors? Well, as Cronkite News reporter Julian Paras shows us, some lawmakers in D.C. are pushing for protections for people who work in the heat.
To provide employees a workplace.
Warehouse worker Javier Rodriguez says he doesn't want to work in dangerously hot conditions, but he's afraid to say otherwise.
The supervisor coming with you and asking you, are you feel good? Are you okay? And sometimes, we scare, say, yes, I feel good. But in reality, we don't feel good.
That's why House Democrats are calling for federal regulations to protect workers like Rodriguez, as well as farm workers, construction workers, or anyone who could find themselves working in excessive heat. One of the bill's sponsors, Arizona Representative Raul Grijalva, said at a rally earlier this week that Congress needs to act because this administration won't.
This Department of Labor and this secretary have done little of anything to extend worker protections to the workers of this country.
The Asuncion Valdivia Act is named for a farm worker who died in 2004 of heat stroke after 10 hours in the field. The bill would require the Occupational Safety and Health Administration to set standards that would protect workers from such conditions. Members of the House Education and Labor Committee agree that it's an important issue, but not all thought Congress is the best body to solve it.
I think we need to think long and hard before we prescribe a bunch of things in a statute directed at an agency about how they're going to carry out their job, because I'm not sure we know enough to do that.
Brian Little, the Director of Labor Affairs for the California Farm Bureau, said a standard is fine, but not the same standard for everyone.
I think that makes sense to do that, but it doesn't necessarily make sense to try to impose a regulation like that on a dental office, because they're just going to have different potential hazards than a lot of other different types of employment settings are going to have.
But Rodriguez believes it does make sense, and a federal law would let workers rest without worrying about losing their jobs or risking their lives.
You have the right to rest and drink water in the shade, cooling when you feel better back to work.
In Washington, Julian Paras, Cronkite News.
Several counties here in Arizona are still under a heat advisory. If you do have to be outside, there are some ways to stay safe in the heat.
Reporter Tanaya Williamson joins us from the Broadcast Center with how some Valley organizations are helping others beat the heat.
High temperatures often leave people with few options on how to cool down, especially those who are facing homelessness. I visited St. Vincent de Paul to learn how the organization is playing its part in helping people beat the heat.
We're just there for people. If they need to get out, we're available.
Bobby Plattner is the dining room program supervisor at St. Vincent de Paul. The organization has 3 dining rooms between its campuses that are open for people without a place to go to cool down during the hot summer months.
It's a place so that people can come in, get out of the sun, get cooled down. We usually have water, we have TV. A lot of times if we have availability for snacks, we give snacks and stuff.
St. Vincent de Paul hands out upwards of 10,000 bottles of water weekly. It is part of the Heat Relief Network, a regional partnership of the Maricopa Association of Governments designed to provide refuge from high temperatures.
Because having lack of money and financial situations, so it brings me here to eat.
When it's triple digits outside, Richard Cruz also uses St. Vincent de Paul to keep cool.
Outrageous scorching heat, but there's always something to be open like this where you can cool off and drink water. So I'm thankful for that.
For people who think they can stand the heat, you may want to guess again.
These days, when it's 105 or 110 is enough to make people overheat.
Even places that seem to have shade can't protect when the sun is scorching.
Park benches, pavement, sidewalks, those can get to be 160 or 170 degrees, and all it takes is less than a second of exposure and you can get a second or third degree burn.
Should you find yourself outside, Dr. Kevin Foster from the Arizona Burn Center gave a few tips on how to stay safe. Here are a few quick tips for being in the heat. Plan your day and try to do outdoor activities early in the morning or at night. Always have plenty of water because you can't ever have enough. If you must be outside, take breaks and get out of the heat periodically. And if you start to feel too hot, get out of the sun immediately. In the broadcast center, Tanaya Williamson, Cronkite News.
That's it for this special edition of Cronkite News Tonight. Thanks for joining us. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.